well with your friends and family. And in a bit, you can call in to tell us what's on your plate. That number is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046, as well as our WhatsApp number. That is 724-0008. You can message in. You can call in on WhatsApp as well. And you can do so by that number, 724-0008. Now, of course, we are going to be having a conversation following up with the discourses we've been having regarding the outcome of the U.S. presidential election and the implications for St. Lucia, the implications for the Caribbean, and of course, the implications for the world of a second Donald Trump presidency. And I'm so very pleased that we're going to have a guest in studio to do so. He's already here, sitting down, waiting for us to start, and he's none other than Ambassador His Excellency Earl Huntley. But first, we want to take in some history for today. Well, back in the year 1956, the United States Supreme Court ruled that racial segregation on buses in Alabama was unconstitutional. 1980 on this day, the United States spacecraft Voyager 1 sent back its first close-up pictures of Saturn during a flyby. And in the year 2018, on this day, the trial of Mexican drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman began in New York, and he was charged with drug trafficking, money laundering, and murder. We now move on to our dish of the day. The Daily Dish is really the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program. And of course, we have been trying to soak in as much commentary, as much analysis in the wake of the happenings of just last week, and that saw a return, one of the greatest comebacks ever, it's been called, that of Donald Trump to the United States presidency. Of course, he takes office, I think, on the 20th of January, Inauguration Day. It's a set time, and of course, there is that period between the November election and the actual taking of office, which is that transition period. Very critical and interesting one for all presidents. And of course, in the case of the United States, it actually involves quite a lot of planning, a lot of wrangling, a lot of getting things in order, figuring out who is going to be serving in cabinets and who's going to be working in various agencies and ministries. And I'm so very pleased that we can have an individual like Mr. Huntley to join us here today. He's got a lot of experience from a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different angles. Of course, from the local St. Lucian perspective, yes, but also an individual as a historian, as a man of who studied international relations, a person who has practiced it out in the field, including in the United States of America, and of course in the Caribbean, where we are no doubt going to see some of the policies that we've heard thus far from Mr. Trump actually pan out and roll out. And Mr. Earl Huntley, thank you so very much for joining us here at the Lunchroom. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but thanks for inviting me.
Now, I mean, what was your reaction first and foremost? Did you see this coming? Did you see an outcome of a return of Donald Trump?
No, okay, yes and no. When Biden was forced to give up, I say forced because, as you know, his party put a lot of pressure on him. My first reaction, and I actually posted that in a chat which I remember, was that the Democrats had handed the elections to Donald Trump. And my basis for that was that I didn't think the US was going to vote for a woman, and I didn't think they were going to vote for a black woman at that.
But did you think, though, that the issue was did you think that Joe Biden was a winnable candidate?
I thought he could have taken the chance, because when you look at Trump, if you have to believe, if you are to go along with all what that has happened to him, I said to myself, but wait, people are saying that Biden is not suitable, right?
There were issues of his age.
And age.
Whether he had the mental faculty
But it's
to
not.
continue.
I think it's not so much the age, but it's a question of his physical and mental strength, right? But on the other side, the other candidate, as far as I was concerned, if anybody had to withdraw, it was him, given his character and everything that.
But of course, we knew that wasn't going to happen, and it didn't happen.
But I'm saying, when you look at the two candidates, and that is why some people in the US were saying they didn't want to vote for either of them. What kind of choice is that they had? But when Biden went back, as I said, that my first reaction was, look, they've handed over this into the Republicans, because I didn't think that a woman, and a black woman at that, would have made it. But after she was accepted by the Democratic Party and gathered momentum, I started listening to the polls. And although I'm one who's skeptical of polls, because polls are really, as I keep saying, they're a snapshot in time. So you take a poll now at 1:05, it'll give you one result. 20 minutes later, you'll take the same poll, and some other people get another result. But when that happened, I began to think that she had a chance, because my premise, my thinking was that Biden was trading Trump in the polls all the time, right? He was trading. And therefore, if Kamala was going to lose, she should be trailing also. If she was that bad a candidate, that weaker candidate, should have been trailing in the polls. But the polls kept saying that they were tied. Sometimes she was ahead, another time he was ahead. Although significantly, in one poll said he was ahead in 3 or 4 of the battleground states. So the fact that she was never trailing him in the polls made me think that she would have won it, and that she would have won it more comfortably than people thought. But it's the reverse that happened. So I was, in a sense, not wrong about the polls. That the polls, it was not as close as the polls were saying, and that in fact he was the one who won comfortably, to the surprise of a lot of people all over the world. But it has happened. It has happened. The Democrats have to look back and examine where they went wrong, and then the world has to deal now with Donald Trump, as you say, as they are calling it, the greatest historical comeback. It reminds me of a boxing match. You say the heavyweight champion has, or somebody stages a comeback, which is interesting, because after the first debate, which
most people thought that Kamala had won.
And Trump had lost this, and they asked him at some press conference or something, is he going to have a second round, a second debate? And he said, because the Democrats wanted a second debate, and he said, no, he's not going to have a second debate, because he's not going to ask one. The person who loses in a boxing match is the person who loses who asks for a rematch. As far as he was concerned, he didn't lose. So to say now that he had a great comeback, one of the greatest comebacks, is to go back to the boxing analogy. But be that as it may, we have to deal with Mr. Trump. The world has to deal with Mr. Trump.
You of course, highlighted some of your fears of Kamala going in any case, that she wasn't ticking that male box, and perhaps maybe to the failing of the Democratic Party, they seem to have sort of tailored her campaign largely on focusing on women's issues, primarily the issue
which it seems now, on hindsight, didn't reach to the widest cross section of the female population in the U.S.
Right.
And I think a lot of it, if you look at the map, Trump got a lot of rural votes. Rural America voted, which is the norm. The norm, but Christian right, etc. And those people, the older women, Christian right, would not, I think, have accepted or followed Kamala's line. The other thing one must take into account as to what happened and why, and there must be a lot of reasons. One of these is the time frame. People must not forget, she had 3 months, as compared to a man who had been campaigning for the last 4 years. Right. So it's a lot to catch up with.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Now, Of course, the issues, the international relations issues that impacted the election,
Elections.
that of the situation of Israel and Gaza, she clearly suffered as a result of that,
Yes, she did.
and the inability of the Biden administration to hold a hard rein in with respect to Israel.
Up to now, they have not been able to do. Israel has, according to the news this morning, just broke another 30-day deadline that the Biden administration had given them in terms of providing aid to Gaza, food. And
Humanitarian,
humanitarian.
yeah.
They've just ignored him. And Kamala would have suffered for that, but those who didn't vote for her because of Biden's policies, relation to Israel and Gaza, if they think that Trump was going to be better, they're making a big mistake. Although I think probably most likely a lot of the Arab Muslims may have abstained. I mean, they voted for Trump hoping that he would be better with Israel. That's big. We just have to look at what has happened already. His nominee for ambassador to Israel is Mike Huckabee, former governor, who was at one time a reverend pastor. And he is one who has said that Israel deserves the lands, right? So that is coming from that perspective. Trump was the president who shifted the American embassy from Tel Aviv, the capital, to Jerusalem.
Well, from the commercial capital to the controversial heart of it all.
I mean, the fact that alone tells you what his stance is going to be towards Israel. And of course, if you listen to the message that the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu sent to him after the elections, you can see he's overjoyed, he's rejoicing. So don't expect that you will get a softer policy from Trump towards in the Middle East, which means that
why would so many Muslim Americans even think that punishing Biden would, by not going out to vote or by voting Trump, would somehow have resulted? I mean, was it just simply that they just wanted revenge? I
think anger. I mean, when all of us have looked at the images you're getting from Gaza, and the fact that, I mean, this is bombing people ceaselessly day after day. They can't retaliate. Yes, October 7th happened, but what has happened there since the Israelis went in is maybe a million times disproportionately a disproportionate response to what happened on October 7th. So it's a humanitarian thing that would have made people angry and touch them. And they forgot that Trump was, when he in his first term, was one who had a ban on Muslims from Muslim countries coming to the U.S.,
which got challenged in the courts, and he had to eventually.
But that is the kind of person that you're dealing with. So you can expect that he will support Israel in his hardline policies in the Middle East. The question of Iran, for which he has been very hawkish to, I think he's not going to restrain Israel in relation to Iran. They're going to take same actions. So I think his presidency leaves a lot of questions about the future of peace in the Middle East.
But Mr. Trump is trying to portray himself as a peacemaker. And he's coming out and saying, he's going to, day one, he's going to end the war in Ukraine.
Yes. In fact, he said by the time he's sworn in on the 20th, the war in Ukraine will be ended. Fine, but how is that going to happen? Are you going to tell Russia, as he did some time ago, to do whatever you want in Ukraine? He said so. And if he's going to tell Putin, do whatever you want in Ukraine, and by the way, Putin is very happy that he got elected. He got re-elected.
Right. Well, we saw what happened in the last administration with him around.
Right. And then he just said last week in a press conference that he admired Trump because Trump is a brave man. When he saw the first attempted assassination and Trump's reaction. So if he's going to tell Putin, as he said some time ago, to do whatever you want with Ukraine, then we're in for even more instability in Europe. And of course, the Europeans themselves have realized that they're in a dangerous place. The European leaders this week are all scrambling. The NATO what exactly is going to happen? Will the Republicans, remember earlier this year, kept back funding that Biden was sending to Ukraine. It was delayed for a long time because of the Republicans in the Congress. So if this is the attitude, will they continue to support Ukraine? And if they don't support Ukraine, then what does that mean for Europe? What does that mean for world peace and security? So we know, I don't say we're in a dangerous place, but we're on shaky ground. But he has not said how he's going to stop the war in one day.
Right. Well, I think
he just says I'm
there
going to do those things.
There was an early conversation I think he in fact had with President Zelensky. And the suggestion that some people are putting out there is that he may very well ask Ukraine to effectively give up the lands in the east of Ukraine to Russia, Crimea, the Donbass, these regions would effectively be just.
Crimea is a one I
mean, it's been gone for a while now.
And I don't expect, and if people know the history, Crimea was actually Russian before. It was when Nikita Khrushchev became chairman or president of Russia that he actually gave Crimea to the Ukraine. So historically, it belongs to Russia. But the rest, the east, the Donbass, which he has just gone in and taken. This is against all rules of international law and international relations. Just go in and invade a country, take it over. And we're supposed to have gone past that stage in international relations. So that may be, as I said, a way of ending it. But will the Ukrainians want to give up territory in East Ukraine for peace?
Do you think his approach?
Under what conditions?
Do you think his approach was simply just to pull the plug on the financing, the support that?
Well, I think possibly
the US is giving, and then just tell Europe and the rest, just go at it alone.
Right, that is a possibility, and if he does that, of course, it also has implications for NATO, because his attitude to NATO is that the European partners should pay more. Yes, I can understand that, but it leaves the question of the commitment, not the question of the commitment, but the agreement that one all for all and all for one. It leaves that into question if he's going to do that. So the long-term security future of Europe again is being called into question. And so the Europeans, as Macron is saying now, that they basically have to in a sense, learn to depend more on themselves, which is probably a good thing for them. But the prospect of peace, I would say, still looks shaky. You know that if things escalate further in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, it's not good for the rest of the world.
Well, I was just about to come to that question and to take it into the Asian sphere now with respect to China, Taiwan. And many people have been saying that, look, Ukraine, what Putin has done effectively is a sort of opening the doors to many other strongman leaders to now begin to push their own buttons on their own fronts where they want to actually have land grabs. And then, of course, that situation of China, Taiwan comes up pretty interesting.
In the case of Trump and China and Taiwan, things change according to the theater.
Well, Trump is really clearly very anti-China
and very anti-China, and therefore one cannot see him looking the other way if China was to do the same thing in Taiwan as Putin did in Russia, given the fact that he clearly sees China as a threat, both particularly economically, and so I don't think he would condone anything that would empower China. Certainly, with regard to Taiwan, he has already said that on the economic front that he's going to impose tariffs on China, which again is not going to be good for the U.S. Because what it means is that the cost of goods are going to go up, and one of the oddly enough, one of the planks in the campaign was the cost of goods. That a lot of people, it just said a lot of people voted because of inflation. Although inflation was in fact has come down in the US, and the economy is in a much better place now than it was 4 years ago. So, but if he does that, it ramps up inflation again, it brings up prices, and that won't only be for the US, that'll also be for us and other countries in the world.
But he can't afford another war. He can't afford to get into
another trade war,
another spat. No, actually, in terms of if in fact, I mean, there have been some pundits who've been suggesting that Xi Jinping has been eyeing this potential actual invasion of Taiwan. We've heard some dates bandied around, like 2027, which is of course going to fall within a Trump presidency. The question is, if it comes to that, would he intervene? Would Mr. Trump, the peacemaker, who's going to prevent all wars,
so-called peacemaker,
is he really going to intervene? Is he going to have to take out lots of money?
Given his aversion to China, would he put that aside for Taiwan?
Into a region that is even less culturally tied to the United States.
But it's also very important to the US, that whole Pacific region, the Asian region. If China goes into Taiwan, then you have to look at Japan. You have to look at what is going to happen in South Korea. I mean, already we are hearing that the North Koreans are in Ukraine fighting with the Russians.
But if he's already so tied up with NATO and not wanting to, and wanting the Europeans to fund it all and to take care of that war, do you really think
that he's going to tell Taiwan, look, you're on your own,
or tell Japan, hey, you guys, you step in?
But you see, the Pacific zone, if I to put it, is more important geopolitically, security-wise, to the US than, in a sense, Europe. Geographically, if you look at it. Right? So he has to weigh. He has a lot of options. He has a lot of things to weigh. But the people whom he's appointing, from what we are seeing, are hawkish. These are hardline people. So I don't know. I'm not so sure he's a peacemaker that he says he is. We'll wait and see. But one is not comfortable. The world is not comfortable that he's there. I mean, and if we are to believe what some of his former officials or officials in his former administration, particularly in security and defense, said about him, can you depend on somebody who, quote, is unstable?
Well, I mean, some theories are pretty much saying that he takes on this sort of madman persona, which in fact, as a negotiating strategy, because nobody knows what he may end up doing,
so that you may give in to.
Right, and that is what potentially makes him an appealing character to a Putin.
But you see, at the same time, it leaves too much uncertainty. You should not have all that uncertainty. Peace should not depend on uncertainty. It should not depend on appeasement. Like what happened now in the Second World War, the First World War. Peace in our time, Chamberlain said, gave in to Hitler, and next thing, things got even worse.
If you're just joining us, we are discussing the outcome of the United States general election and a second Trump presidency. And we have in studio Ambassador Earl Huntley, who is sharing with us his wealth of expertise in this matter. We would actually do for a break, so we're going to end our dish of the day at this time to take in our weather report. And when you come back, we're going to focus more now on our sphere, our hemisphere, Latin America and the Caribbean, and of course the implications for us here in St. Lucia. We'll be right back.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Wonderful. It's now time for the weather report, and the weather report on RCI is made possible with the compliments of Island Style Tile and Bath.
Island Style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say,
King sets, mixes and grow. Everything you need is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewport Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And now for the latest weather report as of 12 noon today for the 13th of November 2024. The forecaster this hour is Shema Joseph. The forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing from the east and east-southeast near 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour, becoming lighter or calm at times. The weather fair and slightly hazy, skies becoming cloudy at times with a few showers. Again, forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. The winds blowing from or between the east and the southeast near 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour, becoming lighter or calm at times. And the weather fair and slightly hazy, skies becoming cloudy at times with a few showers. Marine forecast for seas in a 25-mile or 40-kilometer radius from St. Lucia. Presently, we are experiencing high tide at the Cass Street Harbor. The low tide will be at 6 minutes before 8 tonight. And the Vieux Bay's high tide will be at 25 minutes after 2 this afternoon, and the low tide at 21 after 9 tonight. The seas are moderate to locally rough. The waves and northeasterly to easterly swells 8 feet, the same as 5 to 8 feet. That's the same as 1.5 to 2.4 meters in open waters. Small craft operators and seabathers, you are advised to exercise caution, and that is due to locally rough seas. Please be guided. For the Lesser Antilles, we are looking at fair to occasionally cloudy and slightly hazy skies with widely scattered showers. And the tropical weather outlook at the Atlantic high pressure system will generate light to moderate easterly winds across the eastern Caribbean region during the next few days. Patches of low-level clouds drifting along this wind flow will cause widely scattered showers over the region during the next 24 hours. And that is the official weather report. Join us again in the morning at around 6:30. Our next report from the Met Service is due on the station at that time. Thank you, Shema, for the update. The weather was brought to you with the compliments of the Island Style Tile and Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island Style. We got the time that will make you happy. Island Style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island Style.
We have tiles and king sets, mixes and grow. Everything you need is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewport Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
As the spotlight shines on another exciting edition of the St. Lucia Tourism Awards, the Jimmies! The race is on to illuminate the efforts of our unsung heroes. Who will be the people's choice? Nominate them today! Nominations close December 12, 2024. The top 10 will be posted January 2025 on our social media platforms at the Jimmies. Let the race to the Jimmies begin! Visit stlucia.org/Jimmies to complete the application.
Christmas in this year. Can I have this?
We have an extra $400 from Flow. You can have everything you want.
More gifts with Flow. With Christmas in, win weekly prices up to $10,000 in cash. Sign up for a postpaid bundle or a broadband plan.
Meet Christmas in with free groceries from Flow. Plus, a chance to win weekly prizes and up to $10,000 cash. cash. Head over to your nearest Flow store or visit discoverflow.co. Flow, we Christmasing.
More gifts with Flow.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. We're discussing the second Trump presidency. He is now the 47th president, or is to be the 47th president of the United States of America, the world's most powerful man in the world's most powerful country. And that, of course, does not sit well for a lot of individuals, I know. And we're going to have that conversation continue in just a bit with Mr. Earl Huntley. But just a reminder, for those of you who have Netflix, today is the day that Sprint, that second series of Sprint, comes out, and it'll be featuring none other than St. Lucia Sprint star Julian Alfred. Now, of course, I'm sure Mr. Huntley will be watching that, as with
Yes.
all the thousands and thousands of St. Lucians later on. Now, I know we're already getting calls that are coming in, Mr. Huntley. I don't know if you're okay with trying to maybe just segue to take a couple, and then we can continue the conversation
Okay.
in just a bit. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom. What's on your plate today? Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to the Lunchroom. Hi, caller, we here? Yes, go ahead. Okay, go right ahead, please. Yes, go ahead.
Because when you're talking about the mass deportation for immigration, that will happen. Let me tell you how that's going to happen. Because we, in the Eastern world, not really like to, our constitution already have in place for us to have machine. And that is a dangerous effect for us. So under deportation, we're going to put something in place for the OECS and St. Lucia in particular where I live. Get machines for me to manufacturing things in St. Lucia we can import in other countries. That is all of the factors. Because all the integration I heard Mr. David Shude will mention, it will happen. No matter how. It will not happen this year, it will happen next year, it will happen because we need machine to manufacture things. And if we don't have that culture, we're going to be on the left hand of the early part of the world. We had over 100 years here. After we are 100 years, the 100 years. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very, very much for that contribution, caller. The point being made by the caller essentially that we need to get our house in order in terms of our own economies, because we may very well, and I think that's what he was suggesting, have an influx of deportees coming out of the United States as a result of his policy.
This is the other there are quite a few implications for the Caribbean and for St. Lucia with Mr. Trump going back into the White House. We mentioned the deportees. This is the first one, but he's not threatened. He has said he's going to have mass deportations of illegal immigrants. And we wait to see how that is going to work, because there are a lot of people saying, but how is that going to happen? But whether or not it is mass deportation, you will find some deportations are probably on a bigger scale than is happening now. And then we have to learn to cope with this. Already we are having that problem. Huh?
Interestingly enough, I was looking at the data, and in 2022, and that figure had skyrocketed, by the way, since COVID. The number of apprehensions and expulsions in the United States was at a record high at 2.1 million people already were being sent back.
Yeah. They have been going back since Obama's time, in fact. The deportations have been happening, and they're happening all the time here in St. Lucia. And sometimes we and other Caribbean countries try to delay some of those deportations, because some of those people sometimes have been legally in the States, that some of those they deport. You get yourself in some criminal acts and you get yourself in trouble, and they deport you regardless of your status. The fact that you have a connection with St. Lucia or whatever, they will deport you. So yes, the Caribbean has to, in a sense, brace itself for that. Then there is the question of Mr. Trump's policies towards Cuba, Venezuela, Haiti. In Cuba, we remember that Obama had an opening into Cuba, had actually visited Havana just before the end of his term, and made some changes, although the sanctions still remain, but some things had been softened. And one of my disappointments with Mr. Biden was that he kept in place some of the things that Trump had put back, some of the harder policies that Biden kept them back, kept them there, and I don't see those being lifted. I don't see there being any softer towards Cuba, particularly if you look at who his nominee for Secretary of State is, Marco Rubio, who is the son of Cuban immigrants, and therefore is not going to be very sympathetic at all towards Cuba. And you can
I'm going to be discussing Cuba on Friday, actually. I should mention that to our listeners with none other than Mr. Peter Lansico.
Lansico is our ambassador to right, who also studied in Cuba. Yes. So I do not expect, I expect a harder line policies towards Cuba. I don't see the sanctions being lifted. I don't see them removing Cuba as a on the list of terrorist states. So we can
definitely on the Republican government,
right? Yeah. We can
even without Trump.
We can expect that our Cuban friends will have a very hard time, and they will have to stand in support of them as much as possible. The same thing in Venezuela. It's going to continue the hardline policy towards Venezuela to try to remove Maduro. In relation to Haiti,
but isn't that the irony of this entire situation? Even before you go on to Haiti, that one of the major issues why we're feeling the pressures of the issues of immigration is that the United States, in fact, has had to introduce these programs to bring in people from Venezuela, of course, from Cuba, from particular countries, as well as Ukraine.
Right, but these people, look at Venezuela. A lot of the Venezuelans have fled because of the effects of the U.S. policies on Venezuela, economic policies on Venezuela. You make the economic conditions even harder. Haiti, again, the implications for Haiti. One does not have to go very far back in the campaign to understand Mr. Trump's attitude towards Haiti.
Those are the ones eating the animals, right?
Eating the dogs and eating the cats, etc. in Springfield,
Illinois.
And before that, in his first term, he said Haiti and a lot of those countries were shithole countries. Excuse my French. So, given the situation in Haiti now, which of course is getting worse politically, and the fact that Biden had committed some financing towards the multinational security force that they want to set up in Haiti, will Trump continue to support the attempts at a transition towards a democratic government in Haiti? I don't see that happening. Although I believe the U.S. has very long-term interest in Haiti. People need to understand, I keep saying that Haiti is one of the richest countries in terms of mineral resources in the Caribbean. Haiti has what we call iridium. Haiti is the second largest, well, not producer, the country is the second largest reserves of iridium after South Africa, which are not yet being exploited the way they should be. Haiti has as much oil as one German professor said, as much oil as Venezuela, if not more. There is marble, there are a lot of mineral resources. And my own thinking is that these are being regarded by the Americans as their reserves. And that is why they're not doing anything about helping to regulate things in the country. In fact, when you look at the history of the U.S. in Haiti, it has been interventionist, and they have been responsible for a lot of the problems of Haiti going back to 1915. But for us in the Caribbean, the rest of the Caribbean, I think the biggest, in a sense, concern for us, St. Lucia and other Eastern Caribbean and the rest of the Caribbean, is Mr. Trump's policy on climate change. Remember, he said,
of course, COP is going on right now in Baku.
In fact, it was very interesting that the American representative yesterday at the opening was outlining how Biden's policies have been so much better, how much he has funded, given funds towards climate change. And if Mr. Trump doesn't believe in climate change, as he's said, and had in fact reduced on American support for climate change action, particularly from the financial point of view. We don't expect that to get any better.
Yeah. Ambassador Huntley, hold that thought as we try to take in another call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
The concern I have concerning climate change and these things, to me, there is something, I think we not have that in the Caribbean, but maybe that in Ethiopia. To me, the climate change is another tax they wanted to implement in the world. I don't know how come, but President Trump all this against it before he left power. I mean, I know from now we will see. But to my knowledge, that climate change is like if it's not a war, but it is something like because the world will get hotter. If it's every 200 years or 100 years. That's in the Bible. It is. So maybe the tax they're going to create, and when they create any tax they create in any column, they will not move it. Because that climate is going to go. Because since 1980, that climate change system is in place. We get in that hot in the day of we have to get in it. That is my contribution.
Okay, thanks very much, caller. I think that was the same caller who called in already. Interesting enough. Yeah, but the issue of climate change is a major one for us. And the way forward is not looking very bright.
At this COP29 is again, I heard Mia Motley saying yesterday, but the funds for the Green Climate Fund is far short of what it is supposed to be.
It's far short. It takes too long to get out. And of course, it may very well not even
materialize. Loss and damage, right. So if you get somebody like Mr. Trump, who had already shown in his previous stint in office that he was not supportive of the move towards mitigating climate change, don't expect that it's going to get better, which means that for us, the outlook looks even more dire. If you're not going to get
I'm trying to contextualize a lot of what you're saying, though, Mr. Huntley, because obviously the pathways that we're seeing, although he's saying he's coming as a peacemaker, but it looks as if a lot of the things that are going to be impacted are going to cause tremendous hardship, which may very well lead to greater conflict as we continue to see things pan out. I mean, the situation in Latin America, for example, I mean, we saw what happened as a result of COVID, a lot of hardship, a lot of people began leaving Latin America and heading towards the United States. Sending these people back now obviously is going to cause
more instability,
more difficulty in those countries.
I want to hope that the reality of office will make him think differently, because this whole thing about making America great again is partly premised on an isolationist policy for America. America can't afford to be isolationist, not in this kind of interdependent world that we have. And it's, in fact, in a sense, it's better for America to be fully engaged rather than to pull itself back.
Do you potentially foresee the issues of terrorism increasing in an environment like this, where you've got such hardline approaches, towards different groups around the world?
Yeah. That is possible, particularly out of the Middle East, given as I expect that there'll be continued hardline policy in the Middle East, particularly towards not towards Israel, but in support of Israel towards Iran. So yes, that is very possible. That is very possible.
The matter of immigration, I mean, we spoke about it a little bit and how that actually pans out. But I mean, maybe in a big country, it's, if you start sending back a million Mexicans, but in the case of St. Lucia, I mean, just 500 people coming back makes a really big difference.
Because one of the reasons why, in a sense, immigration is good for us, because it takes away the pressure at home of looking for jobs, etc.
I mean, some people are doing so jokingly, saying that, we need to start thinking about creating employment agencies to handle it. But on a serious note, though, I mean, what would you advise to governments in the Caribbean, right here in St. Lucia, what should we be thinking about in terms of preparing for if this becomes an eventuality?
Well, as people say, you have to try to find more jobs, but also you have to prepare for how those people can reintegrate back into the society, particularly those who have been living in the US all their lives, who don't know St. Lucia or don't know Haiti or don't know the rest of the Caribbean. That has been a problem. So we had to prepare both socially and economically for this.
Hold that thought while we try to take in another call at this time. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today? Hello. Good afternoon. Hi, caller. Go right ahead, please. Hmm. Thanks for that point, caller. Very much appreciated. Ambassador Huntley, I mean, we just spoke about it, but then I think what she's saying is that in terms of media and in terms of our own awareness at a national level, the issues of Cuba, the issues of Haiti,
I agree. These
even Puerto Rico,
right.
You know, I mean, and the hardship that's going on there.
And in fact,
they're not really filtering into
because we listen a lot to American media, and those our concerns in the Caribbean are not their concerns. They'll be more concerned in the Middle East and Europe, etc. But for us in the Caribbean, she's quite right. Our concerns with Mr. Trump's presidency is what it is going to mean for places like Haiti, places like Venezuela, and Cuba. And for us, of course, I said in terms of climate change. But to go back to Haiti, she's correct in that we really need to focus on what is happening in Haiti. As I said, I don't see Trump giving the kind of support to the attempt or the moves for a transition to democracy in Haiti, given his attitude, towards Haiti, and therefore the rest of the international community will have to set up to put in the necessary funding, which they are not already doing for the multinational force. The multinational force of the Kenyans was supposed to have been 1,000 by November. They're still about the 400 because the Americans were supposed to be providing some of the funding for that, along with other countries. But more than that too, apart from the rest of the community stepping up, the Haitians themselves have to dig deep and look at themselves and try and do things for themselves. They just fired the prime minister over the weekend after 6 months, the presidential council, and and he was dismissed because there was a tug of war between the council and the prime minister, which always happens in Haiti. There's always been, because of the system of government, they have a president, and after the elections, the president nominates a prime minister to form a government, and that prime minister is approved by the parliament. While I was in Haiti for the 5.5 years I was there, they must have changed about 7 prime ministers because the prime minister sits at the behest, or in the sense, at the pleasure of the parliament, either house. So the lower house, the House of Deputies, could one day decide, look, we're not happy with the prime minister, have a vote, debate, and take him out, or the Senate can do that. And it happens, as I said, while I was there, and sometimes with the connivance or with the support of the president. I remember under President Préval, a lady called Michelle de Vivier was appointed as prime minister. I remember it was in 2009 after the 3 or 4 hurricanes. And she was, in fact, her nomination went through after the 4th hurricane, and they already realized they needed a government. A year later, she was out. And I remember at the ceremony where she was handing over to the new prime minister, she said, last year, I stood on the right hand of the president. Today, a year later, I'm at the left hand of the president. And so I know where power lies in Haiti. The constitution is, in a sense, from my point of view, was a reaction to Duvalier's dictatorship. And so they tried to spread power between the president, the prime minister, and the parliament. And that has not worked, and it's not working. And so in this situation now, where we have a presidential council, which has assumed the powers of a president, the same thing has happened. There's conflict between the last prime minister and the council, and part of it was because of some of the council wanted their own political appointees who had some of the ministries, and Cornel was wanting to put technocrats there, but the political patronage was what drove the council to do what it did.
Indeed. But is there at this time, though, some silver lining? I mean, in particular, let's say in terms of cooperation across CARICOM, given the realities of what we're now faced with at the geopolitical level with the Trump presidency. I mean, does it mean that we're going to have to cooperate more, whether we like it or not?
Yes, we're going to have to do that, and we shouldn't have to wait for Mr. Trump being there to do that, but we will have to do that. We'll have to do that, particularly in relation to the wider Caribbean,
Haiti,
Cuba, Venezuela, and then ourselves in terms of our own dealing with the migrant immigration problem. It is something that we need to approach together as a region. There's also the question of illegal shipment of arms to the region. The violent gun crime throughout the region.
Just yesterday, the police said a rise in firearm offenses.
Right. And it's not just in St. Lucia, it's throughout the region. And with Biden, there were moves with this present administration for greater cooperation in terms of trying to restrict the flow of illegal weapons from the U.S. into the Caribbean. So that is another policy area that we'll have to look at.
In a Republican sphere,
in a Republican sphere, who feel that everybody should have their guns. They don't restrict guns in America. So are they going to restrict the flow of guns outside of the U.S.?
Of course, there's a school of thought by some that the Republican Party tends to actually be a little bit more progressive or active, at least, in the sphere of assistance to the Caribbean, I think that was Latin America. Was that in the Reagan era?
That was in the Reagan. That was in the days of the Cold War. That was in the days of the Cold War, where in fact, when you look at the record, the Republican Party has been better to the Caribbean, even to us, than the Democrats. The Democrats, I keep reminding people, the Democrats under Bill Clinton were the ones who attacked and destroyed, they have destroyed our banana industry. And I was involved in those negotiations, and we'll be talking to the White House and getting good answers. And then the Department of Commerce, headed by somebody else, would do the opposite. So the Democratic Party has not been, in a sense, been better to us, particularly St. Lucia, than the Republicans. But the era of Republican benevolence or help towards assistance towards St. Lucia and the rest of the Caribbean was more a result of the Cold War at the time than anything else.
Do you think, and we don't have much time left again, Mr. Huntley, the move to the right, we've seen it in the case of Europe. We're now seeing it, of course, in the United States. The far right, these nationalist parties coming into power. Where is it going to end? Because, of course, invariably, they're coming with the same message: close the borders, become more isolationist, become more nationalistic. That goes against a lot of the whole plan, the idea of globalization.
It ends when the crisis hits them, when they see that in the end that's not going to work. It's not going to be the benefit in the long run. That's when it will end and didn't have another cycle.
Do you believe that there'll be more shifts in terms of more right-wing parties?
I think it depends.
Is there something, especially in the case of many countries in the Caribbean, for example?
It depends on the circumstances of each country. Somebody asked me that back in our Creole program on Sunday night. Michael Gasper asked me, well, do you see the same thing happening in St. Lucia? And my answer is that St. Lucia is not America, and America is not St. Lucia. Circumstances differ from country to country, and different factors may operate. That doesn't deny that there's certainly a move to the right. But if you look at what happened in England, it was not a move to the right. The Labour Party won handsomely against the Conservatives.
Although they said that was a Labour Party light, that a lot of the policies were pretty much in the center, and not traditional Labour policies. This has been a really fascinating conversation. It's never long enough. Any parting thoughts, though, from you regarding
while there's a lot of
key points?
While there's a lot of concern, I think all over the world, and here in particular with Mr. Trump's presidency, let us just hope that things turn out for the better. In the end, countries' foreign policies depend on the national interest. And I've told people that sometimes I'm not in the US, it doesn't matter who is president, because there are certain fundamentals of US foreign policy that don't change regardless of who is president. And even though a president may have a different approach or nuance, but there's certain things that don't change. So let us hope. Let's wait and see what is going to happen. There's some thought that what happened in the US is the result of higher powers, and that destiny is there for something to happen in the world. But let us wait and see what happens. But let us hope that it is not going to be as dire or as gloomy or as uncertain. Not uncertain. It's not going to be as dire or as gloomy or bad for the world as some are afraid that it will be.
Yeah, lots of people are just hoping he spends most of his time
playing golf.
Well, we're going to have to leave it
there,
of course. And we were speaking to Ambassador Earl Huntley, discussing what it would possibly be looking like with a second Trump presidency. Of course, that's all coming our way January the 20th. So we're going to have to, I wouldn't say wait and see, but perhaps be doing some reflection and planning for what may come to pass. That's our program for today. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back again tomorrow, God willing, for another one. I'm your host, Calixte Jr., saying goodbye.